So good morning, dear devotees. Welcome to everyone, and thank you for joining us in the beauty and the messiness of the Sadhaka's journey. And today we have our guest interviewee is Subal, and he's joined me here in Alachua, Florida. He happened to be able to make his business trip coincide with today's interview, so that's worked out very nice that we have been able to be together for the interview. So I'm going to start off by reading Subal's short and sweet little bio, and then we'll go into the interview. So Subal started out as a simple fellow from a Southern family in Virginia. Once punk music led him to discover bands inspired by Krishna, it wasn't long until he left 11th grade of high school to enroll in Gurukul school and live at New Goloka. Under the guidance of Bir Krishna Maharaj and Mother Krishna Priya, he built a strong foundation in Gaudiya Vaishnava practice and an identity as Radha Gokulananda's Golokananda Pujari. Later, he married Mahamantra, had 3 children, and a plumbing career. Gradually, Subal came under the guidance of Swami Tripurari and eventually Swami Padmanabha, who kindly keeps Subal from going too far afield. Subal lives in Raleigh with his best friend Mahamantra, 2 dogs, and their daughter Karuna. And he also has 2 sons that have been launched out into the world.
Yep.
Congratulations.
Yep, they're doing well.
So I'd like to just start the interview off by saying at 17, you just seamlessly seem to go from the material world into the spiritual world. Oh, sorry. Okay, let me try to get you to do it again. Okay. How about now? Okay, great. No problem at all. So the seamless kind of movement from material to spiritual. So I'm curious, growing up, if you had any clues in your life that would have led you to believe that you were destined to become a spiritual seeker, practitioner?
I don't think so. I mean, nothing that really jumps out. I think everybody has some inkling of spirituality. But I didn't really have anything significant. I was just a regular person, and I just came into contact with Krishna consciousness. My friends in high school were into a particular type of punk rock music, and many of my friends were chanting on japa beads and had visited temples in some place or another. And there were some bands that sang about those topics, and so those are my friends, and they encouraged me to go check out the temple. The temple that was closest was New Goloka, so I did that, and it was fine. I didn't have to overcome anything major.
Wow. So leaving your ordinary life was nothing difficult.
No, I mean, it seemed like my ordinary life. Just like Padmanabha Swami says, one day you're in the kirtan in the temple and you think, how did I get here? I'm not sure, but I'm going to go with it. So that was my experience as well. Some devotees came to my town and they had some business to do there, and they invited us to their hotel for kirtan and prasadam. And they asked me, what are you doing with your life? And I said, no, nothing. I just go to school. And they said, well, we have a school at the temple, so why don't you just go to school there? And so my response was, sure. So I don't know.
It sounds very, very much like Karnamrita's.
Oh, he had the same.
He just so seamless, like going to the temple and just, yeah, I'm not doing anything else with my life. Why not? You know,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I just always really appreciate that. Wow, to be able to just walk, it was just like walking into another room for you, and it wasn't so hard. But what was it that attracted you?
It wasn't anything particular, to be honest. The philosophy part I really appreciated. Not the really detailed philosophy, but the fact that Krishna conscious philosophy you could apply to your life 7 days a week. And that was like the really basic understand that I had. Okay, I've met lots of Christian people or people that had some inkling of some philosophy, but you basically would put that philosophy on at times and use it or practice it, and at the rest of your life you wouldn't. And so that was the thing that I thought was really interesting about devotees that I had read, and the very little I understood of the philosophy is that you do this philosophy when you're awake, when you're at work, when you're asleep. You just do it all the time. And so that was kind of, with punk rock music, I wanted to protest everything, but you can't, protest all the time, and you have to work and you have to do all the things. And I was already a vegetarian at that time. So it just made sense. Like, it just made sense to do.
What had attracted you to being a vegetarian?
My teacher in high school was a vegetarian, and we had a public speaking class. So we would debate all types of things just for practice, for fun. And so she loved to debate vegetarianism.
Wow.
And nobody could defeat her argument. So like the environment and the animals get tortured and health, and like for every angle, it made sense to be a vegetarian, and nobody could defeat her argument. So I thought, well, yeah, why would you want to hurt animals? That doesn't make any sense if you don't have to. That's silly. I never thought of it before. Like, if it hurts animals and you can eat beans and plants and stuff, just do that. So then I mean, that wasn't hard either. I just became a vegetarian one day.
Oh. So what was it like growing up in a Southern family? What was the religion that you grew up in?
We were nominal Christians, but we weren't actively engaged. They sent me to church sometimes on Sundays, mainly so they could have some quiet time. They sent us on the church bus. But it was fine. It was a nice family. We were all outdoors people. Like, we camp all the time and do outdoors activities. It was a good upbringing. A little rough around the edges, but overall good.
Rough around the edges in what way?
Just if anybody's familiar with Southern culture, it's like kind of gruff and not super open-minded, but not mean or hateful or anything like that. Kind of like just rough and tough type of environment. I appreciated country music and that type of things until later in high school. Then I got into punk rock music, and I wanted to reinvent myself and be whatever, something different. So, kind of standard teenage stuff.
So tell me how you actually, your story about you. They said, come go to school in the temple.
So it's a good story. At least I'm happy with how it played out. I was with my punk rock friends, and we were doing all of our punk rock stuff and having fun. And I didn't really care about school at all. I just went there because that's what you had to do during the day. And so I can't remember what happened first. Jagannath and Prajuma came to my town, I think happened first. And or maybe it happened second. But in any case, they came and we had kirtan, and they made kofta balls on bread, like sandwiches, and halava. And we just did kirtan with the little Casio keyboard in the hotel. And it was a great experience, and they're really nice. And that's when they said, if you're not doing much, why don't you just come and live in the temple? and you can go to school there. We have a school. I didn't know what that meant. Like, it didn't matter because I didn't care about school that much anyway. So that happened, and I realized, well, this could be a possibility for me. I was living with my grandparents at the time.
Because
I just had some trouble at home. It wasn't too bad, but at a certain point, like teenagers need to be away from their parents. It kind of happened with my boys. At a certain point, it was like, they're not getting into trouble. They're not doing anything wrong, but there's going to be some friction here just because. So that was kind of the scenario. So then I called the temple Nugaloka phone number. I got it from one of the books. I called the phone number, and Mother Krishna Priya answered the phone, just by chance. And I said, hey, I'm living here in Virginia Beach, and I've been chanting for a while, and I read, and told her kind of about my lifestyle. And I'm thinking about moving in the temple or doing something, I don't know, I'm gonna do something. So she said, oh, that sounds like a good idea. Why don't you come out down to the temple and I'll teach you to be a pujari. So I said, all right, that sounds great. I had no idea what a pujari was, but I figured that must be what they do at the temple. So I had my car and I drove it to Nugaloka, and I had made arrangements to meet Krishna Priya there, and I brought a handful of my friends. Actually, one of them was Ranga Devi, now that I think of it.
Oh, okay,
She came with me that first trip because she lived down the street from me.
wow.
A bunch of us joined. So some of my other friends also ended up living at Nugaloka at that time. But I drove my car there with a bunch of friends in it, and met Krishna Priya, and she said, well, let's go upstairs and see the deities. And I didn't know what a deity was. I had no clue. I didn't know. So she took me upstairs and she said, here's Radha Golokananda. And she folded her hands. So I folded my hands, and she said, this is great. Like whatever. We worship them. And basically the sum of the weekend, I had met Bir Krishna Maharaj there. I guess everybody agreed it would be a good idea for me to move in there. And so I said, all right, well, let me go back home and get my clothes. So that was kind of the arrangement. They were going to figure out some way for me to go to Gurukul because I had 1 year of high school left, and I was going to learn to be a pujari. So I went home and got my clothes. My car didn't make it all the way home. It broke halfway home.
Wow.
But it wasn't a big deal. My dad picked me up. I went home and got my clothes, and then.
So what was your dad's?
Well, my dad wasn't too happy about it because he didn't know what I was getting into, and he wasn't active in church, but there was a church down the street. So he went down there and he told the pastor, hey, look, my son is going to move into the Hare Krishna temple, and I'm not too happy about that. What should I do? And the pastor, the preacher said, well, have him come down and I'll talk to him. So I went down there and I talked to the preacher. It was like kind of a low pressure thing. And he asked me questions like, why do you want to move there? What's your goal? What's attractive? What's going on with those people? Will you have the ability to leave? And so I just answered all his questions to the best of my ability. I don't really remember what they were now. So then I went home back to my grandmother's house. Then my dad went there and talked to that preacher. And then he called me and I talked to my dad. And I said, well, what did the preacher say? And my dad said, the preacher said he thought that you should move there. He said he thought that it might be a good experience for you.
Wow.
That he doesn't think you'll stay there very long. But if you don't try it, it'll always be something in the back of your mind, maybe. He said you should go ahead and go. So then my dad had to write a special note because I was a minor.
Right.
And gave that to Krishna Priya. I guess he dropped me off. Somehow or other I got there. And I had a special note from my father saying it was okay for me to live at the temple. Wow. And that Krishna Priya would be in charge of me.
Amazing.
So she was for many years.
So what was your experience going from a public school where it's like anything goes, and then you were with, I guess, Irmala?
I was at Irmala's school. So every morning we would go to the morning program, eat breakfast, and then just walk down the hill to her school, stay there and learn regular subjects, high school subjects. But I also had to take Bhagavad Gita class, and I couldn't pronounce Bhagavad Gita. I had never read the Bhagavad Gita. And so immediately I was failing Bhagavad Gita because I didn't know who Dhritarashtra was. I didn't have a clue. But there was another fellow there named Nimai. He sat next to me. He was 5. Nimai was 5, and I was 17. And so I realized that I was going to fail Bhagavad Gita. So then I just cheated off his test because we had to take a Bhagavad Gita test. So when he wasn't looking, I just wrote everything that he wrote on his Bhagavad Gita test, and I assume we both passed. But I cheated my way through Bhagavad Gita
With a 5-year-old.
with a 5-year-old Nimai.
Oh, that's great.
So yeah, it was different. It was a good experience though, but it was different.
Oh my. So then you became a pujari.
Yeah, that's right. So that was July 1995. I moved in the temple on my father's birthday. That's how I can remember.
Wow, his birthday present.
Yeah, his birthday present. So I moved in the temple, and I just took up doing all the things that we did. We went to the morning program. They heated the whole place and the water with the wood stove at that time. So I already had skills with chopping wood and doing outdoor stuff. And I had already experience with doing some construction type of stuff because that's what my father did. So I immediately just fell into doing all the things that needed to be done, which I still do to this day. That's just kind of my nature. So I did all those things. Morning program was great. There were many devotees at the morning program in those years from the school and from the community. And of course, I immediately began learning to do deity seva with Krishna Priya. So I would help her, and she'd do things. When I moved in the temple originally, she had a broken leg. So she had to sit on a lawn chair, and I would just give her a hand with different things, and she would talk to me. So then I would do deity service, and I just became more and more attached to that. And she would really get into the intricacies of the like what we're meditating on when we're worshiping Radha and Krishna. Not just like we do this and then we say this mantra, and then like it was great. I mean, she was really teaching me how she worships Radha and Krishna. And this whole place is Radha and Krishna's temple, and Radha Golokananda are in charge here, and our only business is to make them happy. And it just all made sense to me. Like, yeah, we're worshiping them. And she said, some people say we worship Radha and Krishna in the mood of Lakshmi Narayan. And she would laugh because that's what you hear.
Yeah.
When you're cooking, you got to clean everything because it's like,
yeah.
But she laughed and she said, that's not true. We worship in the mood of Vrindavan. So that kind of set the tone for me.
Yeah.
We worship in the mood of Vrindavan, but we stay clean, at least like we would do in Vaikuntha. So then after, I guess I had to wait 1 year. So then the next year, I got Harinam initiation, and they gave me a few more duties and a new name. And then just shortly after that, I got Diksha mantras. And so then I was able to right away start doing pujari work and help cooking lunch and, actually cooking. So that's was kind of my thing. I would cook and do deity worship and work outside.
And were you satisfied with that?
I loved it. It was the best.
Wow.
Yeah, it was the best. Go to bed early, wake up early. Yeah, it was tons of fun for me. I didn't feel like I was missing out on all the teenage activities. It didn't even cross my mind.
Amazing.
But you and I had talked about this, like it wasn't a hard transition for me. So it seems obvious looking back now. I must have been picking up where I left off. I had got some Sukriti and some ideas about bhakti and natural worship of Krishna. And so then I could just pick that up kind of without a lot of struggle. Doesn't mean I was good at it, but it came naturally at least.
Yeah, so it seems like you came into Krishna consciousness and it just like kind of sailing. And then at some point, which
Mhm.
happens to
Yeah,
devotees that are
everybody.
coming back from the previous life, you kind of hit
Mhm.
your wall, so to
Mhm.
speak.
Yeah.
And then there's some challenge that
Yeah.
starts. So
Yeah,
you want
that-
to
Yeah,
pick
for
that up?
sure.
Sure.
So, that was really good. Like I said, Bir Krishna Maharaj was really kind and very, very practical with me. At that
Mm.
time, at least at New Goloka, there was no internet. There were no cell phones. Like
Yeah.
it was just us there, many of us devotees, most younger, and Bir Krishna Maharaj, and he looked after us and took really good care of us. And he was really practical with me in particular. He would tell me, I want you to learn to do electrical work. And he would come down and he would help me like work on electrical stuff. And he would say, I want you to learn to do plumbing stuff. And he just told me all these things. So I was like, okay, yeah, he's the guru. He knows, he wouldn't steer me wrong. So I took that seriously, just as serious as I would be to chant my 16 rounds and do all the other things he told me. Um, and then, of course, I had Krishna Priya there to help me figure out kind of other things that you wouldn't go directly to your guru with, try to figure out. And so that was good. And at some point, he said, well, this is going pretty well. But I had been in the temple probably 4 or 5 years. He said, you're going to have to get married at some point. And I thought, yeah, I guess I will have to get married at some point. So he said, get really serious about learning a trade. Doesn't matter, just some kind of trade that takes skills, figure that out. And at some point you'll end up getting married. So, which I did. At some point, Krishna Priya and Bir Krishna Maharaj and a few other folks, they had the idea I should get to know Maha Mantra, which we had already lived together for 3 years in the temple. At that time, the men and the women never talked, just looked at their feet and that type of thing. But it was still a really friendly environment. It wasn't like cold or austere or anything like that. So I already knew her and she knew me. And so we both kind of started about that with a kind of open mind. But yeah, it was an arranged marriage.
Wow.
And we were telling Jai about it on FaceTime yesterday, the day before. We started to laugh. We called it a deranged marriage.
A deranged marriage.
So then that was kind of the natural thing. Like, okay, so I'll end up getting married. The temple needed a new septic system, so the whole place was dug up and all kind of work was happening there. So I would cook the Raj Boga every day. That was my service. And I would get done with that, eat lunch right quick. And then that fellow was out there running big machinery and making a lot of noise. So I thought that looks like a lot of fun. So I would go and help him until the evening. And we did that for some time. Like I would cook and I would do Didi Seven in the morning. And then I would cook lunch and then I would work on the septic system with this fella. And at the end, he finished everything up and I was out there helping him and he gave me a handful of money. And I can't remember if I took it or not. He was determined to give it to me. I said, no, I'm just having fun out here to help you. I think that I did take it. I think I put in the donation box. But in any case, he said, if you need a job in the future, let me know. You can come and work for me. Because I said, I'm happy here. I work here. But then I guess I talked to Bir Krishna Maharaj and he said, no, you should get a job. You should go and work with him and you should learn a trade and get that organized. So I drove the temple vehicle to his, I would go to the morning program and I would drive the temple vehicle to his work area. And then I would work with him all day and bring some lunch, some breakfast with me from home, halava or something. And then I would come home. And so I did that for a period of time, while I was still living in the temple and drive the temple car, go with my temple clothes or whatever. And then we got married and then I got a different job, always electrical and plumbing and septic work. So always.
What's your shirt say?
Yeah, progressive service company. This is my work shirt now where I work.
Plumbing, heating, and electrical.
In fact, both my boys work
at
Progressive now. So
It's family
Good.
business.
Yeah, family business. So that was kind of the thing. So then I had to transition out. So Mom Mantra and I were married and I was working. And so then I was like, okay, we got to figure that out. At that time, we didn't have a lot of role models that we could see, we just didn't have role models, exactly on how that would go or how that would be. So then we just tried different stuff, and we lived actually at the temple for a period of time. Then we got an apartment, but Bir Krishna was still involved, kind of to guide us. He said you should buy some land nearby and get that set up. And he advised us a little bit on how to do that. Devotee helped me find a piece of property nearby, which we bought. And then we put a house there, kind of homestead, and then had more children. And so we had Jai first, and then Gore, and then Karuna, and then had our little homestead and worked around there. And I just continued my career. And Mom Mantra stayed home. At that time, that was kind of what we thought was the best thing. So she ended up having to delay her career till the kids were bigger, which worked out okay. It definitely wasn't like the fairest scenario in the world. That was, one regret that I just didn't know what I know now. Should have made sure to give her more opportunities and stuff. But anyway, that was some messiness, things that we had to work with. And then you got to work together to stay married and so forth. So then during that time period, so we had transitioned out of the temple. We still had good devotee friends. Many of them we still have to this day, Gopal Nandini and Krishna Chaitanya and Madan Gopal and Garangi Priya, the whole list of our group.
Yeah.
But Mama Mantra and I, we were still practicing devotees, but at least for myself, for sure, I hit a plateau. I was in theory doing all the things that I was supposed to do, but I probably really wasn't making any spiritual advancement for some period of time. It was really a kind of a challenging time, because in the sense that, man, when you study the books and you read and listen to these bhajans, like, I should be making more advancement and I should be having more experience and but I wasn't. But I was also really engaged with working and family stuff, and that just kind of kept on. And then we would go to the temple on Sundays and festivals, and Mama Mantra was involved with doing things around the temple, and but we're just kind of at a plateau. So then what happened, make sure I'm not skipping any points. Yeah, that was kind of the thing. My career was developing. I was getting skills. We were doing that. Our friends became exposed to Tripurari Swami and especially Madan Gopal, and they started hosting programs. And so, of course, we went because they're our best friends. Anything our friends are doing, for sure, we're going to do that. Krishna consciousness was our recreation, and this is what it's what we did. So we would go there, and we really like to hear from Tripurari Swami, and over time, we got closer and closer to him. And then, so for me personally, the day that like really drove home that he was going to take me to the next level, he was going to say he was my guru, is it was in Madan Gopal's studio in the back there, and he made the very, very strong point that yes, in Krishna consciousness, we're going to put out a significant effort, but our effort is to get grace. So grace means to get a good association. So I had really believed like I should basically chant with extreme effort, do all this sadhana type things with extreme effort, and somehow or other by my effort I was going to generate bhakti, or somehow I was going to scrub my chitta, or somehow or other I was going to like make something happen. And if something wasn't happening, then I wasn't trying hard enough, or I was doing it wrong. That was my experience. This is kind of what I thought. And so that was a total game changer for me. You say you remember that.
Oh, I totally remember that.
day.
That moment of you saying, my life will never be the same. I'm forever changed by what I just heard. And there were tears coming. I mean, it was such a powerful
It was
moment.
very powerful. Yeah.
So yeah, Guru Maharaj really affected your heart at that moment.
Yeah.
There was a total shift.
Yeah. And again, if that was the only realization that I have in this life is totally successful.
So the realization that you had.
The realization is that, yes, we should make a strong effort in bhakti. And the effort is this. We find the best association that we can find. And we do whatever it takes to stay in that association. So generally that'll mean serve the advanced Vaishnavas, the Vaishnavas that are on the same level as you. You make friendship with those Vaishnavas and you stay in connection with them. So again, like I said, we had our group of Vaishnav friends and peers that were all together. We didn't have a lot of mentors at that time. We did have some, you and your husband, and even Drishta and Rudrani were mentors to us. But yeah, you serve those Vaishnavas and you stay in connection with those Vaishnavas. So basically, all my friends, they like to do Krishna consciousness and they didn't do any drinking or any rowdy bad stuff. So I want to hang out with them, so I don't do that stuff. And I wanted to be in association with advanced Vaishnavas, like older devotees that were closer to Guru Maharaj. So then I would be meek and humble in their association and try to be helpful and help with anything they needed help with. And then by being in their association, but then I would hear more things, I would understand what they were experiencing. And so then I was making progress in Krishna consciousness again, just by really taking that to heart. Serve the Vaishnavas, be in the Vaishnavas association, find the right Vaishnavas. So at this time, right, I started to realize being close to New Goloka itself wasn't the best thing for me, just for different reasons, mostly just relative reasons. So we started to distance from New Goloka, which is, again, that's a messiness thing, because I had built pretty much most of my identity around that community and kind of how I projected my life would unfold. And at my older age, I would be some kind of a head boot jari type person like Krishna Priya. And I realized that wasn't how my life was going to unfold, but I was committed to Guru Maharaj for sure. And I was committed to my friends. So I thought, well, let's see how this goes. And then about that time, Mahamantra had been going to community college and working super hard, raising the kids in community college and working also at a school, so many things. And then she got the opportunity to go to school in Raleigh for education. So we moved to Raleigh, we just up and moved to Raleigh and kind of started over a whole new life over there. And that was a challenge, that was a challenge.
Sure.
Mahamantra was in school. She had to do so much work.
What was the challenge for you?
Well, the challenge was really, my biggest challenge was kind of like, I had thought that I would live in Orange County near the temple and my life would be based around that environment. And, so then now I was not far away, 40 miles away in a city. And I thought, I don't want to live in the city. But that was all just notions I had in my mind. Our life was great together with the family and the kids. And it wasn't that far away.
Yeah.
And then I realized we kind of had space from that New Goloka framework, it's kind of a framework set up there. And that served a great purpose for us for many years. Very good experiences, some not so great experiences, but for me, nothing traumatic. But then we could reinvent ourselves kind of in Raleigh. And so then again, we were following Guru Maharaj and trying to get ourselves situated as serious sadhakas and Sri Chaitanya Sanga. And Guru Maharaj always says, you need to have Vaishnavas close by you. That's important. And if you don't have any Vaishnavas in your town, you should move. And so I asked him one time, Guru Maharaj, we're in Raleigh, and he knew us. I mean, he had come to Raleigh, he'd stayed with us. We're in Raleigh. We're kind of far from Vaishnavas, but I don't really feel compelled to get involved in New Goloka and, you know, kind of what do I do and this and that. What, you know, what's my best option? And he said, well, it's not that complicated. If you don't have any Vaishnavas in your area, then you should move to where Vaishnavas are. And if you can't move to where Vaishnavas are, no problem. You just invite Vaishnavas to come where you are. And I was like, oh, why didn't I think of that? So, I mean, pretty much that's what we've done now. So we have Giriraj Mandir. We've remodeled the house specifically to make it like a temple. Padmanabha Swami stays with us. Vaishnavas come over.
It's beautiful
great.
space.
It's great. And we have our space there. We have this whole city to ourselves. You know, so that works out really good. But again, that's things to work through and kind of uphill battle. You got to learn stuff. You gotta grow. But there were good opportunities for the children to go to school there. Good opportunities for work. My mantra was able to work close by, all which helps our bhakti project. You know, we know that in order for us to do this, it makes good sense for us to have a good job, to pay our taxes, to get all our finances in order, to save for retirement. Like all those things are extra, but they support our bhakti project. You know, and we have a house that I don't have to raise funds, you know, when to rent a place or whatever when Garage came. And that was kind of the another messy part of Saragrahi was the most beautiful thing. And we had such good experiences there. Everything about it is 100% positive from my standpoint. We had that place, but at some point, you know, Saragrahi went underground, and now it's manifesting into our individual homes. So now I'm going to keep my house up, and I'm going to maintain it, and that's a place where Sri Chaitanya Sangha can be. Vaishnavas can go there and be free. So we do our morning programs on Sundays at different devotees' houses.
Yeah.
We do it at our house sometimes. Overall, good.
What's the biggest challenge about your life?
I mean, the biggest challenge for me, I would say, would be the same as anybody. You know, you need to have people close to you that can support you, right? And so Ma Mantra is my biggest support by far. You know, she just has a natural growth mindset. Like she wants to grow and improve and be better.
Yeah.
And so, of course, she's going to hold me to account. And I'm going to say all these philosophical points are important to me. I'm going to apply this, that, and the other thing. And when I don't do that, which is often, you know, regularly, I don't live up to what I say my own ideals are. She'll point it out to me.
Wow.
You know, and that's how it works. And then that's a challenge. Like, oh yeah, I'm not actually doing the things that I want. I'm not treating her the way that I should treat her or other people, or I'm not following through on the things that I say. I'm not embracing the sadhaka lifestyle the way that I think that I am. Just so that's a challenge. And then the closer you are to a person, the bigger that challenge is. So the person you're the closest to is probably the person who you're going to have the most friction with.
That's right.
And if you don't have friction with somebody, the chances are you probably don't even care about them. You know, the biggest friction I have, person I'm closest to, is myself. I bothered myself worse than anybody else has ever bothered me. But yeah, that's the challenge. And then you want to support your close friends. You know, I want to support Ma Mantra and her bhakti project and her, you know, all of the relative things that you have to do. You know, and my friends, I want to support them.
Any really big challenges with raising the kids?
Yeah, for sure. That's always a tough one because you put everything into your kids and you think they're going to come out like a certain way. You just have some notion. And that was kind of the challenge with my father. He wanted the best for me, but what he thought was best for me, I wasn't having any part of that. You know, so Ma Mantra is really kind of the best with really kind of being connected with the kids and figuring out, and she'll encourage me to, you know, appreciate them in different ways. But yeah, you have to be open and loving and support the kids. I mean, Jai and Gore both are welcome to stay with us forever, but they want to express their independence and try things, and of course go to college and work and have experiences. And it's hard to watch because you just want to say, well, don't do this and do this and it'll be easier. And it doesn't work like that. Like people tell us what to do all the time, and we don't do it. I mean, we tell ourselves what to do, and we don't do it.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest one. You just really got to be there for them. And
So what are your boys, what's everybody's ages? Tell
so
us.
Jai is 20, and he's going to college, and he's also working, and he also does lots of art projects, like working with artists, and really into media, photography. So he's really active with that, and he works at Progressive, kind of doing media marketing stuff. It's,
wow.
natural fit for him.
Great.
Just a really energetic fella.
Yes.
Just loves the world.
Yeah. Mr. Positive.
Mr. Positive. Yeah. Yeah, he's wearing off on me. And then of course Gore is really excited to be a plumber. He's been working at Progressive since he was 15.
Wow.
And
he's how old now?
He's 18 now.
18 now.
Funny thing is, on his last year of high school, he was not getting into trouble, but he was just kind of goofing around. He wasn't really learning anything. And we pretty much told him, hey, look, you're going to have to drop out of high school because you're just wasting time. Just go to work hard, learn to be a plumber, and you can get your GED later, which he got actually his legit diploma, did a great job, really proud of him. But he just loves to work and learn stuff and have experiences and get his money and be able to pay his rent. And, he just feels really good. It's like, I'm big and I'm learning, I'm doing stuff.
That's great.
Super proud of that.
And then your daughter?
And Karuna, she's you met her. She's
a wrestler.
She's a wrestler. Yeah, she wrestles varsity wrestling in high school since the 9th grade. So she's really physical, but also really smart and just like really compassionate and kind. Also artistic. She's been dancing with Garungi Priya since I guess like 3 years old.
Yeah.
Just amazing,
Yeah, beautiful children. All 3 of them are just and very, very different.
Yeah. Oh, extremely different.
So different.
Extremely different. And none of them are anything like I envisioned how they would be.
Yeah.
There's no way to know.
Yeah.
And even myself, I mean, I think without any doubt, I'm a completely different person every 5 years if I go back. I'm 44 now. I was a totally different person 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
What's the biggest changes you've seen in yourself since you?
Patience is a good one. I have a more patience. I was a lot more rough around the edges for sure. Definitely a lot more rough around the edges.
And what is rough around the edges
just like
look
not
like?
considerate, not kind, not thinking of other people's feelings. And I know my mantra had to be on the bad end of that, unfortunately for her. I appreciate her bearing with me on that. But again, she would be the one to point out, like, maybe that's not the best way to act, or maybe that's not the best way to talk, those type of things. And she was right. She's always right.
And she smoothed you out somehow.
Yeah. Sometimes it takes a hammer it out, but yeah, totally good.
Yeah.
And then of course being in connection with Guru Maharaj and now with Padmanabha Swami. So that was really the biggest development in my life, kind of in the last 5 years spiritually. It's like Guru Maharaj was at my house staying, and Padmanabha Swami came also with him, also staying at my house, with the 5 of us there for a visit. And Guru Maharaj called me into the bedroom, and he said, look, I'm going to put you under the care of Padmanabha Swami. He's my best student. And anything that comes out of his mouth, consider that came out of my mouth. And that was the conversation. It wasn't detailed, but it was basically like, and I thought, oh, great. This is exactly what I needed. Now I'm the Raghunath Das under the care of Sarup Damodar here. Let's let's go with that. And so, Padmanabha Swami, he's very kind and merciful, but also just like Mama Mantra, we got growth mindset here 2.0. So I say all these things are important to me in terms of sadhana and practice and just relative things. These things are important to me, and then this is what I think I should do. And so then he's going to call me out. Are you doing all the things that you said you wanted to do for good reason? No, I'm not doing them. I'll try better tomorrow or maybe this afternoon, so
Yeah,
it's a great
accountability.
relationship. Yeah, great. And that's
so
kind of his
wonderful.
whole thing. Acceptance, accountability. Stay accountable to yourself, stay accountable to your peers, stay accountable to your mentors, and then accept where you are. Like I am who I am. I'm not going to try to pretend to be something else or another level. But whatever you do, that's what he tells me. He's like, okay, you didn't make it this week on sadhana. You didn't make it last week either. But at least today be better than you were yesterday. And if you have some trouble or some issues, you don't have to do anything to rectify that. Just pick up right where you left off. Just pick up and try again. Go again. Do more. Do better. So that's a huge development for me. I'm blessed to have him.
Yeah, totally. Likewise. That's very beautiful. Anything else that I was thinking, like any kind of realization or insight that you've had over your, how old are you now?
44.
44.
44.
Wow. So how many years have you been practicing bhakti?
95 till now.
Wow. So that's 26 years. 26 years. So anything that you really feel that you've learned over this time that you would like to share with other devotees that may be younger or even older devotees? I benefit a lot from hearing your.
The biggest thing is to really understand why we're doing what we're doing, and everybody's going to have a different motivation in bhakti, and of course you want to check all these things with your mentors and your gurus and say, I'm feeling this kind of inclination in bhakti, and then you get that grounded in philosophy, and you'll read some certain books in terms of that, and really get the whole thing kind of laid out. For me, bhakti helps to be a hands-on project. So I'm blessed to worship Radha and Krishna in my home and Giriraj on a daily basis. And so that, even though a lot of that is mental puja, like it's really constructed nicely. With Guru Maharaj has helped me over the years, Padmanabha Swami's helped me over the years, and they say, read these books, understand this. And so when you're doing bhakti, at least for myself, like I can do physical things with my body, and I have something to do with my mind. And if everything is going really well, I'm able to put my emotions into that. So now I'm starting to get the full package. My advice would be, don't just go through the motions. I mean, if that's all you got, trust me, that I'm there a lot. I walk my dogs and chant my, that's not the best. It's not the worst. But you got to keep moving forward. Keep great association, best association you can find. Support the devotees who are around you, because that's the thing. Like, you just say, for instance, so the Gopals are making spiritual advancement because they had some great experience with Guru Maharaj or with bhakti, and then the Lipscombs make a little advancement. Well, the Das family is gonna eventually catch up with them, and then who knows, maybe we might pass them a little bit, and so the tide is rising all the boats. If you can keep your Vaishnav sanga with you at all times. So know what you're doing, why you're doing it, and stay in good company.
You were all like the cool kids.
The cool kids?
Yeah, that's it. I don't remember who had a term for you guys. Your family and Gaurangi Priya and Madan Gopal and Krishna Chaitanya and Gopal Nandini. It was like, those are the cool kids.
Oh, wow.
And so when the cool kids started coming to hear from Guru Maharaj, it was like, oh, now we've got something going. The cool kids. So yeah,
Okay.
I like it. I like the term you use, bhakti project.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
that. Where did that come from?
Padmanabha Swami. Everything comes from
Okay,
him.
everything comes
He gets
from him.
credit for all the good stuff.
All the good stuff.
I'll
Okay.
take credit for all the bad stuff. Yeah, it's a project. And Mama Mantra also, when we talk, like this is a project. We have our and Mama Mantra still uses the term or from Guru Maharaj, what is it? Your mind body complex. We're dealing with our mind. We got like there's a lot going on here. We really we want to save for retirement, and you want to pay all your taxes on time and keep your yard up and, and do your home improvements and all this stuff. And you want to change your japa and you want to develop your internal identity as a sadhaka. If you want your siddha deha, you got to perfect your sadhaka deha. All that's happening at the same time. You got to change the oil in your car and you have to do all the things,
Yeah.
So you have to, like Padmanabha Swami says, you got to integrate the complexity.
Yeah.
Like I have all these things to do, but then I turn my house into Giriraj Mandir, and Mama Mantra loves to garden and all this. It's like we should charge admission. It's so nice out there.
Yeah.
But then she gets all those flowers and she offers them to the deity, and she grows all kind of fruits and vegetables, and she makes preserves, and we give them to the Vaishnavas, and so then it becomes a bhakti project. Nice. And then it becomes an identity, right? I don't know what it is. You get the small samskars and then the larger samskars, and then you get the bigger ones, and then that's your identity. I mean, at this point we couldn't give it up.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I just love how you have really integrated into the world in such a healthy way, and you raised 3 beautiful Krishna conscious children, and it's just it's really a wonderful example. And you're making spirit, and now it's like I see you you're 44 years old, and you're just really focusing on the goal of not just making progress in bhakti, but you actually have a goal of where you want to go in bhakti, which to me is very exciting to see that. That you're able to by grace.
It's by
totally
grace, entirely by
grace.
grace. Yeah, otherwise I would have no clue. I would still be at that plateau period.
Yeah, you'd
just
be at
kind of
that
floundering about.
Same. I got to a plateau period, and that's what brought me to the sanga, was just feeling like I was, I still chanted and I still practiced, but I just didn't feel like I was, the dynamic growth wasn't there.
Right.
It was just kind of like, it was becoming more just rote, day in and day out, and not feeling the enthusiasm that I felt in the earlier
Yeah,
days.
bhakti is nice, and it's fun to go to kirtan. It's nice to eat prasadam. It's great to hang out with devotees, but something has to call us forward.
Yeah.
And I mean, and there's so much more to it. I mean, even in the relative sphere, like Padmanabha Swami, I asked him, I said, how will I know when it's time to retire and stop doing so much work and career and all this? He said, well, it's already time to retire and or work less. He tells me work half as much and do more sadhana. And he said, well, at least work 3 hours less a day. That was kind of what he told me. He said, but in those 3 hours, you should read 1 hour more than you already do. You should chant 1 hour more than you already do. And you should do 1 more hour of deity worship than you already do. And then just work the rest of the time and, do all your things that you need to do. And so then he's always on me about that. Now he's kind of, relented. He knows I'm trying. So he says, well, how's that going? What did you do on your day off? And I said, well, on my day off, I slept an hour and a half later because I was tired. And I had some recreation activities, and I did the same sadhana on Saturday that I did on Friday, like I didn't increase it. He said, oh, no problem. You should continue to work, but at some point he said, you'll know it's time to retire when you wake up earlier on your day off or on your vacation or on your holiday or your birthday, you wake up earlier because you get excited. You want to do your sadhana and you want to do your practice and you want to spend that extra time. So then that's what he says. It should be a gradual, natural transition. I'm not there yet. I'm working on it, but it's teed up, right? It's there.
Yeah, it's teed up. I like that expression. Wow, wonderful. So any last words you want to say before we check and see if we've got
that's
questions?
all I have. I talked a lot.
Well, it was wonderful. So many practical things. Madan Gopal said, I benefit from Subal's association, especially his open heart, egoless embrace of correction, and sincere desire to progress. I am very fortunate to associate with this cool kid.
Madan is very kind. Is very kind.
And you're one of those cool kids too, Madan. So I want to see if anybody has any questions that they would like to ask this cool kid, Subal, while we have him here. Captive audience. Anybody? We might not have any because, here we go, Sakirati. I had the fortune to meet Maha Mantra and I literally love her.
Me too. Very good.
Yes, me too. She's a very wonderful devotee. Thank you for the inspiring interview. And then we have something, this is from Padmanabha Swami. Dear Subal, big hug from Colombia. And I'm the blessed one by having your friendship and sincerity. Wow, beautiful. So what could be better than to finish on that note?
Agreed.
So we thank everybody for joining us. I'm just really happy to see you again. It's been a while. And Subal was very helpful to me after my husband left the world. And right before he left the world, he actually took you into his room and gave you a seva. You want to share what that seva was?
So, the last time I saw Karnamrita, we didn't say it, but we both knew that was the last time we'd see each other. It was pretty clear. And so he brought me into his room and he showed me all his different spiritual items. And he gave me a quick rundown of different things there and why they were significant to him. We went through many things in his room and we talked about that, kind of his practice and just different things. And of course, his shilas were very important to him. And so he showed me his shilas and we've talked about them many times because I also worship shilas, so we have a connection on that. But it was clear he was entrusting me to look after them. It was very clear. So I did, they were sent and we took care of them. The Krishna and Balaram shilas, of course, went to Madan Gopal and the Priya, and they're taking excellent care of them. And then the Shalagram shilas, of course, were with me for some time. And eventually I passed their care on to Nam Ras, who has friends who also worship Shalagrams. Really, Govardhan worship is for me. That's what I've come to know over the years. So yes, I was extremely honored to worship his lords, but I couldn't give them the exact care that they needed. So then Nam Ras passed them on, and then I assume passed them on to maybe some of his friends who also worship Sheila. So that was a very good blessing. Yeah,
it was so helpful because he had a lot of Sheilas and
they were right at home at my
they needed someone to take care of them, and so that was wonderful because I wouldn't have been able to
that was a great blessing.
figure out finding homes for them and all of that.
They find their own homes. You care for them while they're in your care, but that's the thing, nobody controls the Sheilas. They come and they go.
Yeah.
Hopefully they will stay with me.
And thank you. Yeah. And they also did some plumbing for us in the house, which was so appreciated. And yeah, so very grateful for you over the years and being in my life. And we'll continue, I hope, for some
more lifetimes.
More lifetimes for sure.
Yeah, some more lifetimes still.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to thank everybody. Just everybody good on it? No more questions? We'll end it at this point. And yeah, just wonderful to see everyone on the call. And next week, I made a mistake last time when I said that Gopal Nandini was giving class this week or doing the interview. She'll be doing the interview next week. One of my little confusions that went on in my brain. So next week, that will be our sage. And thank you all for joining us, and we'll see everybody soon. And Hare Krishna.
Sorry, Archana-siddhi? Archana-siddhi? Archana?
Can't hear you.
Wait, maybe. Yes, sorry. The Tattva Vivek series is cancelled from next week. So I don't think Gopal Nandini will be interviewed.
Yeah, no, she will be. We had, I talked to Bhakti Ross about it because she works, she works in the school system. And so she has off right now, but she won't have off for some months. So we're going to go ahead and do the interview, but we'll finish at 12:25. We'll be done so that the class starts at 12:30. So at least we'll get it recorded, even if hardly no one can come, but it's really, I think, important to get her. She's one of the cool kids we haven't interviewed.
I'll be there.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.